Hello, I am Melissa Shields, and I am here to talk to you a little bit about the National Board process and how to prepare for the scholarship. I work with Dr. Boyd Rogan, who supervised the work of the National Board Scholarship for the state, as well as a lot of professional learning and outreach to NBCTs. And I want you to know that I'll give you our contact information, but you can contact us with any questions you may have. I actually work in the Office of School Improvement at the State Department, but I am a longtime National Board certified teacher. I certified in 2000, and then again in 2010, and then again in 2020. And so I know when I was going through the process, I would have loved someone to onboard me a bit with what to expect and what the process might look like, as well as I also applied for the scholarship some 21 years ago. And so I thought I would just give you some tips and some things to think about as you prepare your application. Before I do anything, I wanted to spend some time talking about the actual National Board process, because you should know what you're getting yourself into. To know once you apply for the scholarship and if you should receive it, what's next. So let me just go through the process with you pretty quickly, and I'm going to give you all kinds of information and how you can get some more resources and tools to get yourself all set up. So just really quickly, you want to go ahead and go to the National Board website. It's NBPTS.org. Click on Get Certified. This is not committing you to anything. This is just saying, hey, I want to get on your registry. I want to get information. I want to receive emails. You're not committing to submitting anything right now or even later. You're just saying, I am interested in this process and I want someone to be sending me information. If you apply for the scholarship and you receive it, we're going to ask you for your candidate ID number. And that is something that you would be assigned when you create this account. So, what is National Board? You've heard about it. You probably know of some teachers who achieved National Board. I was one of those in, I think it was 98 when I first began my journey into National Board. And I think it was framed to me as the bar exam for teachers. And I was a very young teacher. And I thought, well, I don't even know what that is, but I think I need to do that. I want to know if I've got what it takes to become an NBCT. So I knew nothing about the process other than someone had told me you submit some videos and you write up some information and research on your students. And so I truly went into the National Board process about as blind as you could be. There were no social media groups or mentoring cohorts or anything like that. So let me just give you kind of the nuggets of National Board and food for thought. And I said, I'm going to give you all sorts of information that you can go in and really dig deeper. So first of all, National Board is for teachers by teachers. And so just knowing that, you're in a step in the right direction. Those that would be reviewing your portfolio are those that have walked in your shoes. It is a network of accomplished teachers who are taking leadership roles and truly affecting policies. But becoming a nationally board certified teacher is a way to be recognized for your accomplished teaching. It's also some really rigorous high standards that are also created by teachers, and they are scored by teachers. So what do you have to do to become an NBCT? What are the eligibility requirements? Well, one, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and you have to have 3 years of teaching or counseling under your belt, and of course, a valid state or school counseling license. So let me just pause there for a second. Let's say you are in your 3rd year of teaching right now, and you are considering applying for the scholarship. I want you to know you are eligible, because this scholarship is for those who are pursuing National Board next school year. So you would have completed your 3rd year of teaching or counseling, whatever the case would be. Now, I always provide this number. This is National Board's number. If you ever got any wonders that perhaps they need to address, I've called this number many times over the last 20-something years, and they are just always very helpful and eager to support you. So here's a list of the 25 certification areas. And this might be a discussion for a different time if you've got really specific questions, but I just wanted you to see what's out there. So I'll just start up here with art. You'll see that art is divided into two certifications: early middle childhood, early adolescence through young adulthood. So what sets National Board apart from maybe other certifications is not by grade, it's by age. So for example, I certified in English language arts, early adolescence. Let's see where that is, right here, number 6. That is for students who are between the ages of 11 and 15. Like I said, it's not grades. I was teaching 8th grade at the time. So I elected to pursue the early adolescence, which is kind of the top part of early adolescence. But I could have chosen to do early adolescence through young adulthood, which is the low end of that side. So if you're one of those middle grade teachers, you might have a little bit of a judgment call to make, and we can certainly help you discern what might be best for you. Now, you hear a lot about National Board, but what sometimes folks don't understand is the impact it truly has on students and communities. It's depending on which research you're looking at. I've seen some studies that show a student taught by an NBCT can get somewhere in the estimates to 2 to 8 weeks more learning. I mean, think about the return of investment in that. And the positive impact is even greater for our students who are minority or low income students. So knowing that is really exciting, and to see our state growing in the numbers of accomplished teachers is certainly encouraging. So I just read recently that a nationally board certified teacher is 4 times more likely to stay in the classroom. And I think that says so much about the quality of those teachers. So here's kind of the national process in a nutshell. You've got 4 components, okay? And so you're looking at the screen, you can see 1 is computer-based, and you can see the other 3 are portfolio, they're written entries. So you would submit these portfolio entries during the school year, next year, if you chose to do all of them. And you would complete the computer-based assessment normally late spring or in the summer, early summer. So I'm just going to kind of go through those so you can see what that might look like. Now, one thing you got to see is it says that there are 4 components, 1, 2, 3, 4. You do not have to complete them in any order. You could choose to do 4 next year, and 2 and 3 the next year, and 1 the next year. The only requirement for National Board and for this scholarship is that you submit at least 1 component every year for 3 years. So at one point you'd have to double up. You can certainly complete all of them in 1 year. That's what I did, and I've worked with many that choose to submit all 4 components within 1 year. But if you've got a lot of things happening, a lot of obligations at home, obligations at school, you've got young children, you're taking care of an elderly parent, you may elect to say, I can only commit to doing 2 components this year and 2 components next year. So component 1 is the test. You may have heard folks talk about, and it looks a little different than it did, when I did it, and then in kind of the second iteration of the National Board process. But there will be 3 constructive response exercises, and you're going to have 30 minutes each to answer those questions. And it really just depends on your certification, but many times it's like a scenario, like here's a piece of student writing, read it, and what would be your feedback? How would you support this student for X, Y, or Z? I really appreciated that going through that process myself, because it made it really authentic to give me a scenario for my classroom or for specific students. And then how would I either kind of triage this kid? How would I support this student in their learning? There are 45 selected response questions. You have 60 minutes to do this. This is not like the praxis where I said, I've taken the praxis. This is not the praxis. I mean, there's only 45 multiple choice questions. So that right there tells you it's not like the praxis. And we have curated just some really great resources to help teachers prepare for component 1. One more time though, component 1 is something you would not even do until the summer of next year or very late spring. I usually recommend you try to do it in June, when you finish, you sent the kids off for the summer, you've had a couple weeks to just pull yourself together and then prepare for the assessment. But some choose to take it, in May before school's even out. Component 2 is differentiation and instruction, and this is a written entry. This is classroom based. And it really depends on your certificate, but it's whatever the certification is, you're going to be focused on how you differentiate and support specific student needs. You may be asked to identify 2 or 3 students and show your work with them over time. You're really going to showcase student samples, written commentary, and specifically how you support student A in their journey for a specific skill or learning. Component 3 is the one I think gives folks the most heartburn. This is when you video yourself in your classroom. It is a painful process, I will admit to that, but you get used to it. I always encourage folks to video often because the more you do it, you just get acclimated to having that camera in your classroom. This is going to be focused on your practice and the learning environment that you created for your students. You'll demonstrate how you engage them, like I said, how you impact their learning, and this is what happened before this video or videos, this is what happened during, this is what happened after, this is what I would do differently. And I keep talking about this as a written commentary. You are going to have very structured questions to respond to. You're not going to be looking at a blank Word document wondering what to write. National Board will provide specific instructions and prompts for your certificate area for each one of these components. Component 4 is interesting because it's kind of a combination of a couple components when I went through the process, before they changed it. But this one is really looking at your ability to be an effective and reflective practitioner. And in terms of how you look at student data, particularly that formative data. So this is completely outside of STAR and iReady or whatever you use. These are those formative assessments that you have in your classroom and those summative assessments that you would lift up to talk about how well you know your students, specific students, their needs, and how you use that data to inform your work with them. There's also a place for you to talk about your collaboration with families, professional learning, your contribution to learning communities. This is a really broad place for you to discuss your work in the classroom and outside the classroom. This is just kind of a list of what you would see in component 4, talking about how well you know your students. Do you send surveys at the beginning of the year asking them, tell me more about you? Are you doing the same for your families? Looking at those formative and summative assessment pieces, self-assessments, so important. And then what do you do to grow? And if you choose a particular professional learning need, is that founded on needs that you know your students have as well? So once again, here's just an overview. You've got the computer-based assessment. You have the portfolio entries, component 2, 3, and 4. And as I said before, you can complete these in any order. So bottom line, and if you've ever been in any of my sessions, I say this all the time, there's so many places that you can connect with other folks to support you. Every single in-service center has funding to support candidates through this process. A lot of local school districts have local cohorts where they're building their teachers up through the national board process. But ultimately, it is up to the candidate to make sure that he or she really has read the guidelines and understands what is expected. So I'm going to actually take you to those standards and instructions in a moment. So, it's a little different. Back in, the old ages, we had to wait for these instructions to come in a box. Like I think in October. You can leave this Zoom meeting and you can look up your instructions right now. You can see what would be expected of me as an art teacher teaching 4th grade. What would that look like? And so I'm going to take you to that site so you can see where to find these things. So some exciting things that have happened is in the last 3 years, as you probably know, all nationally board certified teachers receive $5,000 and have for 20 something years. What's new is in the last 3 years, specific NBCTs in specific schools can also receive an additional $5,000. And I included some of the law language here, so you would know more about that. But if you're an NBCT in literacy, ESL, math, science, career tech, or special ed, which is brand new, and you teach at one of those schools in B, C, or D, then you would be eligible to receive $10,000 each year. If you're interested to see if your school is on that list, when I send you a link to this particular presentation, you can click on that ALSD memo and you can find out if your school is listed. I would caution you that if your school is on the list because of the percentage of free and reduced lunch rates, if they're right there on the cusp of like 75%, don't assume that that school is going to be on that list every single year. This list does change year to year. It is a fluid list, particularly on that last part, looking at the student percentages of free reduced lunch rates. So if you have a school that's like at 74, 75%, it's possible that the next year they're not on that list. So I just wanted to be really clear on that. The other thing, because I'm asked this all the time, is if you become a nationally board certified teacher, you normally find out in December. And then you would actually get your first $5,000 in February. So just a few months later, you would get that initial stipend. This additional stipend would not come to you until the following October. You have to be an NBCT in October to receive this extra stipend. So now let's talk about the scholarship. It's due March 31st. I'm going to go to the website and kind of take you through the process and give you some just things to think about as you prepare your application. But this is the scholarship. These are the scholarship eligibility requirements. I copied this straight from the grant application. You have to have 3 years of teaching experience. And if this is your third year, then you are eligible. You must teach full-time in a public school. You've got to commit to teaching 3 more years in an Alabama K-12 school, and also commit to completing all of the National Board portfolio, which is all 4 components within 3 years. There is an application fee at $75 each year that you're pursuing National Board. Something to think about. If you complete all 4 components and you certify in 1 year, then you would only pay that $75 one time. But if you choose to do 2 components, next year, you'll pay $75. You do 2 components the next year, you'll pay $75 then as well. Another legislative piece is that the annual household income cannot exceed 3 times the median household income for the state of Alabama. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go to this scholarship application. And we've just put together a Google Doc for you because we're always getting questions and we wanted it to be a fluid document that we could very easily go in and address any questions. I'm going to scroll down so you can see what I'm talking about. These are specific questions that we have received about the scholarship. And so I would certainly nudge you to look through these questions, because if you've got a wonder, it's very likely we have already addressed it. And I tell you what, if we receive a wonder that is not there, we immediately add it. So I also provided lots of links and resources to specific questions. So looking at this document, this is the actual scholarship application. And I'm not going to click on that because it's going to take me to the live version. For you to access it, you must have a Google associated account. So if you have like a school account that's googly, then you can use that one, or if you have a personal Gmail account. But because we're using Google tools to collect this information, you must have a Google account. We have had a few schools that they're Google, but they've created some permissions on their side that doesn't play with forms that require attachments. So if you should get in and it's saying, hey, we're not letting you, or we don't recognize you, then just use a personal Gmail account. That just means that your school has set up some protections about uploading attachments. Before I get to this screenshot. These are just some additional documents that you might want to review. The guide to National Board Certification is going to take you, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to click on that so you can see it. It's going to take you to a 37-page document that really just goes through the process, tells you a little bit about National Board Certification, what to expect. So this is one of the shorter documents that you might want to just look at to get yourself really acclimated to what National Board Process would look like for you. The 5 core propositions, this is really important because you're going to be asked to address those in your scholarship application. So let me click on that as well. The 5 core propositions are at the heart of an accomplished teacher. And so it starts with, what teachers should know and be able to do. So let me just kind of peruse a few of these for you. So here are the 5 in entirety. Teachers are committed to students and their learning. Teachers know the subjects they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. Teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. Teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from experience. Teachers are members of learning communities. So let me just pause there for a second, let you eyeball those 5 propositions. If you can't tick off each one of those for your practice in the classroom or as a counselor, then perhaps National Board might be something you want to wait a bit. Because anytime we talk about the National Board process, I'm really careful to say this is a great thing. You will say this will be the best professional learning you've ever had. Everybody does. But I also say it's hard. It's kind of like if you're familiar with like an advanced placement class. You've got to go through the process, but you also have to get that score to get the credit, to get that AP credit. So National Board Certification is kind of like that. You can go through this whole process and submit everything, but you still have to get that score, that benchmark score to receive certification. It's hard. That's why it means so much. If you continue looking at this document, it really breaks down each one of those. And so I'm just going to kind of leave you with it. But if you'll just scroll, it's going to give you language. So this is what I always recommend for someone who's pursuing National Board, but also those that are pursuing the scholarship, since this is kind of the meat and gravy of the scholarship. Spend some time looking through this, 52-page document. Get yourself a highlighter or a pen. And as you're reading each of these 5 core propositions, I encourage you to highlight the things that you do right now. You're going to read this and say, I've been doing that. I didn't even know that's what that was called. Highlight the things that you're already doing right now, making notes, maybe of specific activities. With another highlighter, maybe look for some things that you don't do, or maybe words or pedagogy strategies that are completely unfamiliar to you, and then Google them. That will really give you food for thought when you're developing your application, because you're not going to have to wonder, okay, now what are some ways that I know my students? What are some ways that I'm a member of a learning community? So this is a really great way to start, and it is the best foundation that you can have going into the National Board process. We also provided a scoring matrix. Just, I'm an English teacher. I want to know how someone's scoring me. So this is what the scoring form looks like. And I don't think I've mentioned yet, but I will when I get to the actual application. If you work in a Title I school, a failing or CSI school, or you have less than 5 NBCTs in your school, according to the language in the law, there is some additional weights that you can receive because of that. Now, if you're listening to me now, like, well, I'm just not even, because I don't hit any of those. We had over 115 scholarship winners in the spring, and many of them did not receive any of these weights. But what I did want you to see in terms of this rubric is, I'm going to scroll to the second page. This is where it breaks down the profile of teaching one more time into those 5 core propositions. And you can see what's a 1, what's a 2, what's a 3. And this is language straight from National Board that you want to make sure that your responses are clear, consistent, and convincing. And then here's just some brief language about each of those 5 core propositions. So just think about that. If this language is what the scores are using to determine how clear, concise, and consistent you are in your responses, then I would pay close attention to that language. So let me go into the screenshot of full application. The reason we provided this is if you're like me, I want to print something out. I don't want to just put my application in live. I'd rather have everything prepared so I can either copy and paste or upload. I want to know what I'm getting myself into before I actually complete the application. So this is just a screenshot for just easy printing and planning. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Make it a little bit bigger for us. So of course, you're going to start with just your email address, the basic information. But where I really wanted to hang my hat is in this instruction piece of the application. The first part, of course, goes without saying, complete the actual application, put in your email address, your phone number, all that kind of stuff. The reason we ask for your phone number, by the way, is just because, let's say you submit something and we have a wonder. That's just a really quick way for us to get hold of you, particularly if it's close to the deadline, to say, hey, what gives? Where perhaps email can't get to you as fast. But you are not required to put your cell phone, but it is helpful if you do. I can think of several last year that we had to contact to say, we don't have your street address, or we don't have your email address is coming back with an error. So you're going to submit an attachment, and it's going to be 6 pages. I'm going to go through each one of those. You're submitting one attachment, but it's made up of several different things. One of the things we really tried to do with this application is make it as similar to national board protocols and language as possible. So this is a very, very, very mini version of what you might expect when you're going through the process, but national board will require you to upload attachments. Many times you have to put multiple attachments into one PDF and you'll upload it that way. So let me go to the first document. So here's the 6 pages. The first document is a profile of your teaching. And you're just going to submit a written profile of your teaching. So all the things that you did as if you've gone through a master's or EDS program or doctoral program, we're very used to writing in academic language. We want to sound really, really smart. This is the opposite of that. I'm not telling you not to sound smart. But what I am saying is what the reviewers are looking for is the heart of your teaching, the heart of the teacher. So you're going to speak in first person. You can use exclamation points. You be you. You know, tell us what sets you apart from any other teacher. The profile cannot exceed more than 2 single-space type pages. So, and you're going to, when you go through National Board, they have very strict guidelines about page lengths and size of font. So once again, we really tried to be consistent. So you see those 5 core propositions again. If you are asked to address how you relate to each one of those 5 core propositions, and let's say, you know, writing is not something I like. I'm not a writer. I hear that all the time. Well, that's fine. So let me give you the English teacher mini version here. If the first one is teachers are committed to students in their learning, I would challenge you to begin that as kind of your topic sentence, and then further provide evidence and justification that I am committed to my students in their learning, and this is what I do. I think if you start that way, you're going to see that it's going to have a very logical progression, and it's going to be much more cohesive if you're just trying to fit things randomly. When you go through National Board and you have specific prompts, we usually recommend to candidates, you know, underline when you address specific prompts. So let the reader know, hey, this is where I'm addressing how I'm a member of a learning community. Document 2 is a context of your school. And this is just 1 page. And it's really just a place for you to say, this is what you need to know about my kids. This is what you need to know about my school, its community. These are challenges that we have. These are points of pride. Here's the demographics. My school was recently recognized for being an X school, whether it's a positive or a negative thing. Just tell us about the nature of your school. This is also part of the national board process when you are asked to provide context about your specific classroom. Document 3, you are going to put 2 letters of recommendation. There's not a page limit, but 2 letters of recommendation. At least one of them should be from an administrator at your school or district. So let me just pause there. These letters can be from former students, from parents, from fellow teachers, anyone that has knowledge of your teaching. We've read some beautiful letters from former students, the big ones and the little ones. In terms of the one from administrator, it could be a current administrator, a previous, a superintendent, an AP. It doesn't matter as long as that person was an administrator and once again knows very clearly about your accomplished teaching. The last one, document 4, is just a bulleted list. This is not, there's nothing written here. It's not like it's a narrative or paragraph form. It's just a place you say, you know, these are things I didn't get to tell you anywhere else. I was teacher of the year. I lead the PLC. Last year, my principal recognized me for my students 100% dibbling in kindergarten and reading. I do after school. I led our accreditation. I mentor young teachers. I teach at the junior college. I am the cheerleader coach. Just a list of the things that you do for your school as well as your community. You're going to put those 4 documents together as one document as a PDF, and that's what you're going to upload to this actual application. Now, I'm just going to share with you, this is what I use. Now, if you have a scanner, that's awesome. But if you don't have access to a scanner handy, particularly since so many of us are working from home, one of my favorite tools to use is called Genius Scan. I don't know if you can see it. It's the orange one. I don't think you can see it really well. It's just so easy. You can just take a picture of your 6 documents. It consolidates it into one PDF and emails it to you. I'm sure there's many more apps, but I use Genius Scan all the time. So let me go through the document with you. So I'm going to skip the obvious stuff. The current areas of and what grade you teach is what are you teaching right now. Even if you're going to be teaching something different next year, that is completely fine. Just what are you teaching right this moment? The numbers of years teaching and counseling, what your annual combined household income is. Let me stop here. So if you've previously submitted a component, this is different for the scholarship. Used to, if you've submitted, then you can apply. But because National Board has changed the process a bit and you don't have to submit everything in one year, we wanted to show grace too, particularly now with everything going on. So if you've already submitted a component last year, or let's say, you've already started for this year and you're doing component 2, I'm just throwing one out there, you can still apply for the scholarship. And if awarded, the scholarship will pay for anything left for you to complete. Now, it can't back pay and it can't pay for retakes. I don't think I mentioned that before, but you can hold on to your best scores. And let's say you get a score back and you're like, oh, I feel like I can do better. Then you can retake that the following year. So just let us know if you've already submitted a component. It does not affect your scholarship in any way other than lets us know how to plan funding wise. If you have submitted, let us know which ones you have submitted. Let us know about your school and you would click all of the following. If there's more than one, then you click them all. If it's none of those, just click not applicable. We did provide links because, you're like, I don't know, is my school a failing school? Is my school a CSI school? We provided links for you to be able to pull up the document to see if your school is actually on that list. Please know that someone is going to be verifying every single thing you click, even the title school. So please get that right. The InService Center regions, who are amazing. I don't know if you've started the process yet or not, but every InService Center region in the state supports National Board Certified Teacher candidates. And so I always say, once you start the process, reach out to them because they are ready to help, but they don't know you're going through it unless you contact them. So let us know which in-service center served your school. So if you're like me and, I was teaching maybe here and then I lived over here, we're not asking where you live. We're asking which in-service center serves your school. So please go in and double check that. We included a link so you could say, some folks maybe not know who's your InService Center. This will let you know where you fall in that spectrum. What we do is as soon as you get the scholarship, we contact that director to say, hey, Miss Smith got this scholarship. She's going to be calling on you, so they can be preparing support for you. This will maybe give you a little anxiety trying to decide what certificate you plan to seek. But what you think, I wouldn't belabor this and spend just a lot of time, contemplating that, because you can certainly change your mind. You're not committing to anything. This is just for the Alabama scholarship. This is not for the actual national board process. But it is interesting for us to see when we have those pursuing the scholarship to see what certificate areas are applying. So if you are not sure, I did include this really awesome link that gives you some explanation and age ranges for each certificate. So if you're kind of vacillating between one certificate and another, let's say you can't decide if you want to do generalist, because if you go through generalist, then you are going to be looking at literacy and math and science and social studies. When you might say, well, I just want to do literacy. I teach third grade. I just want to do literacy. So you might want to look at those two portfolios to see which one you think would be a good fit for you. Let us know what you, at this point, which we know things are going to change or could change, but when you submit this scholarship application, which components do you think you would submit next spring or summer? Once again, not a commitment, but just letting us know, I think I'm going to do component 1, 2, and 3, or I'm just going to do 1. This is when you identify that all of these are true for you. And you'll see here, excuse me, this is where you would add your PDF document that has your teaching profile, your school context, your letters of recommendation, and your list of professional accomplishments. This is just letting us know that you are not doing this blindly, that you really did go in and read what National Board is about. We have had folks receive the scholarship before and send you an email saying, hey, Dr. Shields, can you tell me what I need to know about National Board? Don't do that. That's not an email worthy. There's no way to explain to someone what to expect. So I'm going to show you a few things. So because there's so much I know that you want to know. So let me show you a couple things that we've also provided. I have this really nerdy website. This is just a passion project of mine. If I had to be honest, it's just me paying it forward. I've been in education 30 years, and any success I have, I feel as though I gleaned it or stole it from someone else. I have been so fortunate to be around amazing educators from the time I started teaching as a 21-year-old, and then the men and women I work with every day on my team inspire me. So this website is not a State Department website. It is really just a place for me to share resources that either I've gleaned from other teachers or have curated myself. When you go to the site, then you click on teaching, scroll down to where it says the Alabama Candidate Resource Site. And this is a site I developed just for you. I put on my glasses thinking about what that felt like when I was going through National Board in 1998, knowing absolutely nothing about the process. What I wish someone had given me and maybe provided some direction. So this is a site that you can go to now, and you can click on right here. I want to see my portfolio instructions. If you click on this link, it's going to take you to the site. Scroll down, click on your discipline. I'm just going to grab one, early childhood, and here are the instructions. Here are the standards for that particular certificate area and age level, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 components. You'll see the rubrics for each of those as well. I think I've already shared the guide to National Board certification, which is kind of an overview for anybody pursuing National Board, but the portfolio instructions will be specific to your particular area. If you scroll down a bit, you're going to see a longer version of the little PowerPoint that I shared at the beginning where it says getting started, you can do it. Click on that and you're going to see a little bit more explanation of the propositions, of each of the components. This is just a breakdown again of the different certificate areas, and you can see which ones there are, as well as which age ranges that those would fit, and just some other links and things that you might find helpful. Here's the stipend information for this year for those NBCTs that can receive the additional $5,000. I'm really excited about the summer boot camp that I haven't even posted yet. We're going to have an Alabama National Board boot camp. I think it's the 20th and 21st. I'll be looking for information regarding that. It is a free boot camp that Dr. Rogan and I and the Alabama Network partner together to provide support to anyone in the state who is interested in pursuing National Board, and all scholarship recipients are always invited to that as well. I'll scroll down just a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. So before I kind of wrap up, I wanted to give you some context. So one of the reasons the scholarship is offered in the spring, I got it in the spring as well, a gazillion years ago. And so ideally, what you can do is you'll get the scholarship or apply for the scholarship. If you should be fortunate to be a recipient, you'll find out in either way, you find out in May. And that gives you the entire summer to just get your head in the game, to really connect with your in-service center, attend the boot camp, learn about the process. And when school starts, you're ready. You have an entire school year to develop your components. For a few years, the scholarship was offered in the fall. Some issues we saw with that is that teachers didn't find out they got the scholarship until maybe November or December, and a whole semester was gone. And so it was very hard for them to do the whole portfolio in that short period of time. So we went back to the spring scholarship so that gives teachers ample time if they choose to pursue all 4 components in one school year. They certainly would be able to do that. I'm going to provide additional links when we send this out. So anything I've referenced, we'll be sure to send those links and resources out. Most important thing is that you know that the scholarship is due March 31st. And everything's digitized, so we're watching to see these come in. If you have any questions or wonders, please contact me or contact Dr. Boyd Rogan to answer any lingering wonders, and we appreciate each of those because it certainly informs our work to better be a blessing to you as you're going through this process. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I look forward to hearing from you. Good luck to you all. Bye-bye.